Quiet now. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you guys. All right, well, on behalf of the Orange Chamber of Commerce, my name is Berkenda. Welcome to the May installment of Eggs and Issues. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Before we dive into some good topics, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to the May Parade. Did anyone here attend? Angie, I saw you driving around in the Moki. You guys look like you were having so much fun. So before we start, I'll just do a couple of quick thank yous to some of our parade awards. So just announcing the overall winner. So our overall winner for the parade, the Galactic Grandmaster. First place was the Greater Orange County Arts Theater, which is GoCat. Second place, the Elks Lodge, number 1475. And third, Orange Homegrown. I had intended to read all of the winners, but it's like an entire page. So those of you who won, go back and watch the May 14th City Council meeting because all of the awards were given out then and it's in the very, very beginning. So thank you guys all for participating. We appreciate it. Well, as you guys know, Eggs and Issues, breakfast. For those of you who are on Facebook, everyone here is eating a delicious breakfast at Orange Cafe. It looks so delicious. Every time we have this, I'm like, I'm so hungry because I can't eat and talk to you guys. But as you guys know, it's an open format. So Aaron, our guest, is here for you to ask questions. I have some questions planned, as you guys all know, but if you guys do have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get you as many questions as possible. We do have a hard stop at 9, so if I start to slide on into that home base, then we're going to go ahead and he'll have some time to talk to you for just a little bit afterwards. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker of the day. That is going to be Economic Development Manager Aaron Schulze. Aaron, welcome. Before I let Aaron say a couple of words, I want to go ahead and read a little bit about him. I have your very short bio, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
So Aaron was born and raised in Anaheim and is the third of 4 siblings. He earned the rank of Eagle Scout at the young age of 14, and at age 19, he spent 2 years in Uruguay as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where he learned Spanish. Aaron studied business and Portuguese at Cal State Fullerton, completing a study abroad in Brazil and earning a BA in Business Administration and an MBA. He started his career in local government working for the city of Santa Ana, and after working in Huntington Beach and Garden Grove, he saw the light and came to Orange in 2007.
That's right.
Aaron has worked in various roles in the city, tackling such issues as business attraction and retention, affordable housing, homelessness, short-term rentals, and animal control services. Last year, Aaron became the Economic Development Manager, and the City Council has tasked him with developing and implementing a comprehensive, proactive economic development program for the city. Aaron and his wife, Trina, live in Fullerton with their 3 children. In his spare time, how do you have spare time? Aaron enjoys traveling, cooking, reading, and playing board games. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you. Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you, Berkenda. It's an honor to be here.
We're so glad to have you. Well, as you guys all know, the budget is the hottest topic, as it should be in the city right now. But before we dive into that, I would like to talk a little bit about Aaron. So, Aaron, you have been the Economic Development Manager for now about a year. So how have you found that transition?
It's been great. So I started off my career in economic development, and I worked in that for several years. But when the state eliminated redevelopment agencies statewide, the city, that was our funding source for economic development in the city. So the city disbanded the economic development department. I went to the city manager's office and then to community development and then back to the city manager's office. It was a great opportunity to get a lot of different experience working in different roles in the city. But my heart has always been in economic development. It's something that I love doing. I love working with the residents and the businesses to try to grow our economic pie here in the city of Orange. And so it was a dream to come back into a role in economic development. And so it's been a lot of work the last year, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What do you feel, which role or which roles do you feel best prepared you for the task at hand?
I think, like I said, filling various roles in the city. A lot of what you do in economic development is making connections with different people and different institutions in the city. Whether it's businesses, property owners, developers, people from important organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce, we have such important institutions here in the city. We have Chapman University, we have San Diego Canyon College, we have the hospitals. So it's all those different roles in the city that have given me opportunities to get to know people, build relationships. That way, as the city council asked me to reach out and to work on these economic development initiatives, it's great because I'm reaching out to friends. I'm reaching out to people that I've worked with for several years, and it's great to bring them together in a room and find a way to improve what we're doing here in Orange.
That's awesome. I know. I feel like you're probably the first person I met in the city several years ago. Just because it's so nice to see you out and about everywhere. Well, as far as some of the things you've done during your tenure, I noticed that you have hosted a few meetings for your departments. I know in October there was a meeting, there was the Development Forum in January, and then most recently in March you held the Economic Development Roundtable. So tell us a bit about what those meetings entailed and how people can get involved with that.
Definitely. So when the city council asked me to put together a comprehensive economic development program, we hadn't had one in several years just because we had lost that funding from the state. And so what I did was I looked at what other cities are doing. I looked at my own experience. I put together what I call kind of a first draft of an economic development strategy, and I presented that to the council in October of last year. And from that, what the council said is, that's great, that's a great start, but we have so many great people here in the city. We have so many organizations, institutions, business owners. Let's bring them all together and let's expand upon this and let's improve it. So what we did was in January, we brought together stakeholders, business owners, property owners, the Chamber of Commerce, of course, and we had an economic development forum. And what we did is we looked at the city and we did a SWOT analysis of our economy. What are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Really just took a look at that so that we could see, hey, what are things that we could be doing to improve upon our economy and our economic development here in the city? So from that, that helped inform the economic development strategy. And then from there, what we did is we created a group as kind of a subset of that economic development forum. Once again, various business owners, property owners, developers, the Chamber of Commerce, of course. I'm going to say Chamber of Commerce a lot this morning because the Chamber of Commerce is a huge partner with us in everything we do with economic development. And so what the Economic Development Roundtable does is it meets regularly, it reviews our economic development strategy, they provide insights and input, how we can improve it. And then also because I'm the only person in the city that's dedicated full-time to economic development, these are the people that can help expand upon those resources. They can help connect with other people, bring together that knowledge, bring together the resources they have from their institutions so that we can be more effective in doing economic development for the city.
Now, as far as the roundtable, is it too late for any of us to get involved in that?
It is never too late, Rakinda. No, definitely, yeah. If you're interested in getting involved, we'd love to have you. Like I said, it's kind of a brain trust for the city of Orange. Once again, understanding that me or my colleagues at City Hall, we don't have all the answers and we don't have all the insights as well. Even though my background, I have a business degree, I've never actually run my own business. So having people in the room that have run their own business, having people in the room that own property and are making decisions on whether or not to invest in that property and how to go about that. That's the kind of insight that we need to inform us as we look at what we can do better as a city to get that economic development engine going.
Awesome. And so is there like a link off of the economic development tab, or do people contact you directly?
People can contact me directly. So feel free to call me. I'm at 714-744-2202, or you can email me at aschultz@cityoforange.org. Just remember, Schultz is with no T and an E on the end. It's a weird spelling. I have to spell it out every time. So it's SCHULZE.
Perfect. Now, as far as some of the programs that you're working on, let's talk first about infrastructure. Many cities, I feel like most of the cities in Orange County are facing this massive infrastructure need for an overhaul. So what are you thinking about doing with infrastructure here in Orange?
Yeah, so one of the first things we looked at for economic development is how we could create tools to be able to invest in public infrastructure so that we could get more private investment to the city. And we've had some real success with this in the city. If you look at Old Town, once that large parking structure opened on Lemon, those properties around it on West Chapman, you saw a lot of private investment come in where people were willing to invest money to rehab those historic buildings and open businesses. So public infrastructure investment can be a great tool for economic development. Redevelopment was our main funding source for that before the state eliminated it. So we're looking at ways that we can kind of bring back that tool. So we're in the process of forming an enhanced infrastructure financing district. It's something that the state did create in the wake of eliminating redevelopment. And what that does is it's not a new tax. It just takes existing property tax as the values go up in that district. It's called, for those of you who do public policy, it's called tax increment financing. So once again, no additional taxes. What it does is property values go up in a certain area. A portion of that new property tax that's generated will be put into this infrastructure fund. And once we're able to get monies in that fund, then you can issue bonds against that to do infrastructure projects. And then what you see is as you invest in that infrastructure, you get private investment into those properties and the values continue to go up. And so you're made whole with those increased values, bring up your property tax for the taxing entity. So exciting, something we look at. If you look on Tustin Street, if you look at a lot of places on Chapman and Catella, there's a lot of areas where the city could improve the infrastructure, improve streetlights. I would love to underground utilities. It's expensive, but I think it would make the area look much nicer. But there's also a lot of things that we can do with the streets, including, putting in bike lanes, looking at medians with trees or nice landscaping. A lot of things that can enhance the look of the area, but also the functionality as well for the businesses.
Okay. Now, as far as infrastructure at the city in itself, the city buildings, is that something that's part of that as well?
So it wouldn't necessarily be for city buildings. The focus of this would be for economic development. But yes, our city buildings are aging. So as part of these budget discussions the city council is having, is they're looking at ways that we can better plan for resources to renovate those existing city buildings.
Okay. And is there going to be, do you think, a committee for that, or will that just be something that's more internal?
It definitely is part of the budget process. So for those of you who have been following what's going on with the city's budget, the council does have two ad hoc committees. One is set up to look at the budget and what kind of cuts and revenues would be needed to get the budget in a sustainable place. And then the other committee is looking at doing public outreach to inform the public about what the budget situation is in Orange, as well as get input from the public. What would they like to see? What kind of service levels are they interested in?
Awesome. Well, something that sounds a little bit fun is the West Catella District project. So tell me a little bit about where West Catella District would be and what that might look like in timelines and things like that.
For sure, yeah. So this is probably my most fun project that I'm working on. Super exciting. One of the things that we look at when we look at economic development is you look at what's going on around Orange and what are ways that we can take advantage of all that excitement. So obviously we're next to Anaheim, and Anaheim's got a lot that's going on. They have the Disney Forward, which is expanding of the theme parks. But around the Honda Center, they're doing a huge development that's called OC Vibe. It's a big entertainment complex. If you're familiar with LA Live, it's going to be something similar. We're going to have multiple entertainment venues, hotels, restaurants, housing, and it's all going to be right there around the Honda Center, which is right next to Orange, right? So we're right across the Santa Ana River. Another exciting project that's going to be right there is the OC River Walk. And if you're not familiar with these, I encourage you to go online, just Google OC River Walk. There's a whole website. So it's being led by the city of Anaheim along with the Orange County Water District, and the city of Orange is partnering with Anaheim on this. But it's basically creating a recreational district along the Santa Ana River. And one of the things that we don't really have a lot of in Southern California are rivers that have water in them all year round, right? So that's what the exciting thing that they're planning on is to actually have water in that section of the Santa Ana River year round so that people can do recreation and they can go on kayaks and ride bikes by it, right, and see that. So what we're looking at is we're seeing this great development happening around the Honda Center. We're seeing the OC Riverwalk project, and we're thinking, what can we do on the orange side of the Santa Ana River to take advantage of all this great development? So several years back, the City Council rezoned a lot of the properties along West Catella. And when I say West Catella, we're talking from the Santa Ana River on the west side to Main Street on the east side.
Okay.
And then on the south end of that area, you have that water channel.
Yes.
And then on the north end, you kind of have just like the properties on the north side of Catella. So like the Stadium Promenade and some of those other properties there. So the City Council rezoned a lot of those properties a few years back to make them urban mixed use. And what urban mixed use allows for is a lot of density as well as a mix of hotels, restaurant, entertainment, housing, right? So that we can create our own kind of destination, resort, entertainment district here in Orange. So to make that happen, it's a little different than OC Vibe. OC Vibe, all the properties there are owned by the Samuelis.
Yes.
So they have full control over those properties. The City of Orange, we don't own the properties in this district we're creating. So what we're doing is we're creating a process where we work collaboratively with the property owners to kind of create a vision for the area. So we've hired an urban planning consultant.
Okay.
We're working through right now a visioning process. And from that, we'll kind of create kind of an overall look of what kind of a district could develop there. And it's something that's going to happen over years, right? So you asked about timing. It's not something, unfortunately, that's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
OC Vibe itself is going to be phased over several years, with some of the first phases hopefully done by the Olympics, because some of the LA Olympics are going to be held at the Honda Center, I believe, volleyball and possibly some other sports. So
Great.
anyhow, so it'll be over several years. And then as part of that, we're going through a process of what's called place branding and place making. And it's looking at what kind of a brand, you know, OC Vibe's a brand. Obviously, Old Town Orange is a brand. What kind of a brand is something that's authentically orange, but also something special for this district? So we'll be looking at that. And then placemaking are just different elements that the city, as well as the private developers, can put into that area to make it feel like a special, different space. Right. So that could be anything from, you know, once again, if you look at Old Town Orange, there's a lot of placemaking going on there, right? You have your decorative street lamps, you have special street trees. Obviously, we have the Plaza Park and the fountain. Exactly. So what are some elements that we can put into that area to make it a destination, resort, and entertainment area?
That's really exciting. I think that'll be great. I know just it seems like some of those things, it takes a long time. There's like so many years involved, but once it's done, it's almost like you don't remember when it wasn't. So it'll be very exciting. Look forward to that.
For sure.
Now, along those same lines, microtransit, I think, is going to be key as we're talking about building out that side of town and tying it into the different parts of town, especially downtown. Let's talk about microtransit. I know a lot of cities have that. I believe we're working with, is it ATN, Anaheim Transportation Network, on that. So what is microtransit going to look like for Orange? For
sure. So first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the Orange Chamber of Commerce, because this was something that was spearheaded by them initially. So thanks to the Orange Chamber of Commerce. But basically, Orange Chamber of Commerce started talking to Anaheim Transportation Network, and Anaheim Transportation Network said, hey, we have this microtransit service that's working in downtown Anaheim. And I'll tell you, I grew up in Anaheim, but I've worked in Orange for almost 17 years.
Long time.
And, you know, Orange has a much better downtown than Anaheim. I'll just throw it out there, right? So they said, you know, it's something that works in downtown Anaheim, but we think it would work even better in Old Town Orange. And so started some discussions. And what's great about Anaheim Transportation Network is they got together a lot of grant funding. They got grant funding to pay for the purchase of all of the electric vehicles. So they're kind of like glorified golf carts, basically, that can ferry people around Old Town. And so they got grant funding to pay for the vehicles, as well as to cover half of the operating expenses. And then the city recently did a memorandum of understanding with the ATN for the city to kick in $100,000 of those operating expenses. So with that, we're able to move forward. We're going to do an 18-month pilot project that will probably launch early next year. Okay. And we'll hopefully help people get around Old Town. It's something that say you come in on the Metrolink train and get off at the train station, you can take the microtransit to another part of Old Town. Or say that you park in our beautiful lemon parking structure with over 600 spaces that's never full. And you could take the microtransit to the restaurant that you want to go to that maybe isn't right there, right?
Right.
So it's a way to help people get around Old Town. And then as part of that, our Public Works Department with the city is actually looking at a bunch of different parking management options that will help improve the parking experience in Old Town, which I think everyone would like to see, right?
Right.
So they're looking at a range of options. It hasn't come to City Council yet, but some of the things they're looking at are improved signage, wayfinding, better parking enforcement, which is something that people have been asking for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then as part of that, one of the options will be a paid parking option. And the reason, and the way it would be designed, it's not something that's supposed to necessarily generate revenue for the city. Mm-hmm. It's more about managing the parking in a way that supports the businesses.
Right.
So what you do is you have paid parking in the most desirable spots so that there's always turnover, so that when people do want to come park in front of your business, that there's always at least a couple of spaces that are available.
Correct, not somebody camping out all day.
Right.
I've never done that.
Yeah. Of course not.
When you get a good spot, you're going to stay, walk everywhere. Thank you for sharing about that. I know parking is going to be my next question. However, I think it's time to take some questions. Before that, I just want to tweak this a smidge because it's driving me crazy. Okay. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, who has questions? I see a question in the back. You can speak loudly, thank you.
Sure. I'm Victoria with the Coaching Network. I just moved here from Fort Lauderdale, and I'm wondering if you have any relationships right now with other cities. So for example, Fort Lauderdale, we have the Riverwalk, which connects, the Arts District with the downtown Las Olas area. Same with the micro transport. We have something that's called the Circuit. So I'm wondering if you're speaking with other cities, collaborating with them to learn how to make the best of what you're building.
It's a great question. Also, welcome to Orange.
Welcome.
Hoping that you're loving California. Yeah, so something that that's important for me to do, and something the council has really asked us to do, is look at what are other cities doing and where can we collaborate better with them. So something that I do is, so I have worked at a few other cities in Orange County, Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Huntington Beach, is I keep in touch with other economic development professionals in surrounding cities. What's great about Orange County is the cities really work well together and collaborate well together. So we already have built-in groups. But something that I am working on forming is North Orange County Economic Development Group.
Oh, nice.
So it's all the economic development professionals from North Orange County cities. We can meet together regularly. We can share information. We can look to see where it makes sense for us to collaborate. Just like, this microtransit. That was actually, like I said, it was the Chamber of Commerce that reached out to ATN. But what are other ways that we can reach out to Anaheim and work with them so that we can bring some of the great services here to our businesses? So, yeah, great question. Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions come to mind?
Aaron, it's nice to have you here today. You touched on redevelopment a little bit. That was when that went away. You mentioned that the city of Orange was looking to do something. Do you ever see it coming back on the state side? More direction on that and bring back
I don't think it will ever come back in the incarnation it was before, right? I think what happened was this. Once again, the state largely got rid of them because they wanted to keep the money in Sacramento, right? And not here at the local level. So I don't see them as giving up that revenue again. What we have seen is just like this infrastructure financing district, that was a tool that was created by the state to allow cities to form these districts. They're not as powerful as redevelopment was, but it's at least something. So it's possible. The other thing that we look at, and I'm sure this is something that you're very familiar with, Barry, is, for those of you who aren't that familiar with redevelopment, the way it worked was 80% of your money was to go towards economic development, and 20% of the funding was for affordable housing. And so that was a reliable funding source that we had, so we could, like clockwork, build affordable housing every year. And we had a great program. We have a great portfolio of affordable housing communities here in the city of Orange. And when the state eliminated that, it eliminated our main funding source for affordable housing. So it's been a lot harder to build affordable housing ever since that went away. So we'd love to also see a reliable source of funding for affordable housing as well.
Any other questions come to mind right now? Rachel?
A connection to economic development, I think when folks have a sense of home and place, they tend to put down roots, want to live, work, and play here. And connected to that, we had heard rumblings of a park coming on board on the west side of Orange. I just wanted to ask if you had any updates on the status of the park and what that would bring to the community, families, and neighborhoods.
Yeah, definitely. So when we look at our city, the west side is the side that doesn't have as many parks as other parts of the city, right? So we're looking at ways, especially the city council, especially Councilmember Dimitru, who represents that part of town, has really been looking at ways to get more parks in that area. And because it's a largely built out area, it's difficult to find just space for a park. But we've identified this area of land. It's right on the Santa Ana River. It's right on the trail. And it's property that's owned by the Orange County Flood Control District. And it's right next to where we have a Marriott hotel that's been entitled but hasn't been built yet. We're working hard to get that built. So that's so we have a lease with the county for 50 years for that park. We got some funding through our Congressman Correa as well to help build those improvements. And I believe we're in the design phase of that. However, there has been a little bit of delay because it is still flood control land. And they are actually going to be doing a levee project on that land. So we have to wait until they complete the levee project before we can actually move forward with construction of the park. So the update is it's in the works. We've gotten some great help from our congressional delegation and some great collaboration from the county, but we are waiting on that levee project to be finished.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're all warm now, so we can talk about the budget a little bit.
Okay.
We're all good friends at this point. And knowing that we're going to talk about this tonight at City Council, so definitely don't want you to dive too far. I know you have quite a few meetings. If people want to hear a deep dive into the budget, there will be quite a few places this week. But how do you feel that the budget will affect some of the things that you're working on specifically?
That's a good question. So I will say that in these budget discussions, the City Council, once again, has been very clear. They do have some tough decisions to make for sure. And I don't envy the position that they're in, but they're really working proactively to find some long-term sustainable solutions to the city budget. Mm-hmm. As part of that, they've made it very clear that economic development is important. And even though a lot of the initiatives we're working on, they're going to take a few years to come to fruition, right? The infrastructure financing district, it takes a few years before you actually get up enough funding to do some big infrastructure projects. But they've said we can't sacrifice the future of economic development in the city for today's budget issues. So that is something that they've been very clear about, and they've been very supportive. Every time that I bring an idea to them, ask for some resources to be able to get these programs off the ground, they've always been hugely supportive.
Awesome. Perfect. Now, talking about tourism and bringing more people in. So I know that a tourism district is in the works. Let's hear a bit about that because, as you know, we're the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. So what's the tie-in there and how does that look?
Well, okay, tourism, obviously, big important industry in Orange County. Mm-hmm. Who here has worked in a tourism-related business before? All right, so I grew up in Anaheim. I actually one of the few people that grew up in Anaheim that has never worked at Disneyland, but I've worked at multiple Disneyland-adjacent businesses that lived off of tourism. And so as we're looking at our economic development strategy, we thought, how can we better take advantage of our location here in Orange County and next to Anaheim to get more visitors coming to spend money at Orange businesses, as well as stay in Orange and pay TOT tax that helps fund city services. So that's part of what we're doing for building West Catella. We're trying to get some hotels there. Mm-hmm. But then most cities have what's called a tourism improvement district. And what that is an assessment on hotels Usually it's about 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's paid by the hotel guests, and then that creates a revenue source that you can use to fund promoting your city as a visitor destination. And there's a lot of different things you can use it on. You can use it on advertising, promotion, providing materials to visitors, helping get those people while they're planning their vacation to Anaheim to think, hey, I could actually stay in Old Town Orange and still visit Disneyland because we're so close, right?
Right.
And get this charming historic district at the same time. So we're looking at working with the hotels. We're actually setting up a group that includes the hotels, the Chamber of Commerce, the city, and some other stakeholders from our economic development roundtable to start the process of forming this tourism improvement district, as well as start coming up with a plan on how we can better promote Orange as a visitor destination.
Right.
And obviously the Chamber is a big part of that because for over 100 years, it's been the Orange Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau.
Correct.
So we want to make sure that we work in tandem with the Chamber to be able to welcome those visitors to Orange.
Thank you. Well, one last question that I have for you is regarding a new program that's coming out. Now, for as long as I've been involved with the Chamber, shop local, just that phrase, shop local, shop Orange, has been really important. And I know that we have a new program called Shop Local coming out. So, and that's being rolled out with an involvement with the city in what, 2 weeks?
So pretty soon, yes, we are. So when we're looking at our economic development strategy, one of the things we're doing is trying to support local Orange-based businesses. And a great way to do that is through a Shop Local program. And the Shop Local program that we're rolling out is going to have multiple components. One of them is just a promotional campaign to encourage people to visit Orange businesses, spend your money in Orange. When you spend your money in Orange, you're supporting local businesses, you're supporting local jobs, you're supporting local investment, right? Mm-hmm. And also you're supporting local city services. When you pay the sales tax, that helps support, police, fire, parks, libraries, all that. Right. And then what we've been, and this is, I'm going to do one more shout out. It's to Elizabeth Holloman, our CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Yes. She's done a lot of the work on looking at some innovative ways that we can do a Shop Local program. And what we've done is we're working with Blue Dot, and they have a rewards app. What it is, it's a very simple app that people can download. It hasn't launched yet. We'll be launching it next month, right. So we'll have more details coming out. But it's an app that people can download. And when they spend money at local Orange businesses, they can earn rewards that they can then use at other Orange businesses. So it's a fun way to encourage people to shop local and actually be rewarded for doing so.
That's exciting. And
it's super exciting, and it's great because it's simple. The businesses actually don't have to do anything.
Correct.
So it's going to be easy for our businesses. They don't have to do anything. The app takes care of everything. And it's just a way that, once again, our city council is looking at ways, how can we support businesses, especially small businesses. It's harder from a city standpoint to support small businesses, and this is a great way to do that.
And I think the official title is what, Experience Orange?
Yes, so Experience
is a really
Orange.
Fun title.
Yes. We tried to come up with a branding that kind of encompassed all the things about Orange: shopping, dining, services, right? So it's Experience Orange. Get out there, find those local gems, or keep going to that fun business that you already do love.
Old Cafe, Orange Cafe.
Exactly right. Such as Orange Cafe.
Orange Cafe is one of our favorites. I think you guys identified almost 700 businesses for like a first rollout, which is that's a lot of businesses.
Yeah,
all in Orange. So very exciting time. So look forward to that. I know there's the demo or the beta coming out in a couple of weeks. We're already going to be in June, like tomorrow,
right?
Saturday, but pretty soon. So look out for that. It's going to be great. Any last questions? I have time for like one or two more short ones. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Very interesting as business owners, and I own property in the city of Orange as well. I live here just down the street, and the state made it easier for us to build an ADU on our property, which we primarily use to house our in-laws. But they don't come very often, so I thought I'm going to apply for a short-term rental license, rent it out here and there. And there aren't any in the city of Orange, and I haven't given them out for a very long time. So I know that in cities like Big Bear, where it was very controversial with residents, increasing short-term rentals, that's what the taxes made everyone happy. The residents got the money from the visitors, and the short-term rental owners got to run the businesses. Has there been any exploration of that as a source of revenue in the city?
Definitely. So we do have a short-term rental program here in Orange. That was something that I worked on in a previous role in the city. And basically what the city council did is they looked at, hey, we have these short-term rentals that are popping up in neighborhoods. There are some impacts to their neighbors. But then there's also some benefits to those property owners that are looking for a way to make it affordable to live here in Orange, right? So we looked at what other cities do. A lot of other cities just ban them, but what we found is even if you ban short-term rentals, it doesn't get rid of them, it just pushes them underground. So we created this program, the city council created this program to allow a certain number of short-term rentals in the city. Currently it's capped at 125. That's a city council policy decision, so it's up to them whether or not they want to increase that. And then a lot of regulations that really reduce those impacts on neighbors. So one of the rules is you can't have your visitors park on the street, just to show, hey, there's not even an impact to parking to your neighbors, right? Obviously, noise is a big issue, of course, so they have to follow certain noise regulations as well. And they do generate, so those 125 do generate TOT tax to the city, so the city has seen revenue from that, which is great. And we do have a local short-term rental group that they do a pretty good job of policing themselves because they understand that it's important to be responsible and to be good neighbors, that if not, the city council could go a different direction and ban them. So I guess to answer your question, it's a city council decision if they want to increase that cap above 125. Other than that, I'm sure, so are you on the waiting list for a permit then, or?
I actually asked, I said, how long is the waiting list and about how long does it take to come up? And whoever I spoke to on the phone said, I've never seen anyone come up. So it's 125 people who have been grandfathered in and the program. As long as the waiting list has been in existence.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they're valuable permits, right?
So
But yeah,
like
that's.
you said, that there's revenue being lost because people are doing it, we're not, but people are doing it anyway. Time where we can really use the revenue.
For sure.
Great question, Lily. Well, we're pretty much at time, and I do have a couple of announcements. Erin, before we kind of head into some announcements, do you have any last words for our business community?
I just want to say, this is something I love doing, economic development, and the reason why I love doing it is because I love this community. I love Orange. I've been here 16, almost 17 years, and I love working with you guys. It's such a great business community, and like I said, one of the big things the city council has asked me to do is reach out to you and get your input and find out what are the things that we could do to help you improve your business that would make it easier for you to invest in the city. So please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to work with you. And once again, thank you very much for all your help and support.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Erin. All right, so just a couple of announcements. So before we go, we have our BNG, that's our business networking group. That's always on the first and third Wednesdays. The next meeting is on June 5th, and that's going to be at Zito's Pizza. Ribbon cuttings. We have 3 coming up between now and the next Eggs and Issues. We have on the 7th, Snow to Go. On the 12th, Durham Effects. On the 18th, Tabasi Mobile. That must be a anniversary, right? Tabasi Mobile?
He renovated his store.
Oh, very nice. That'll be exciting. Okay, so let's look forward to that. Our next Eggs and Issues will be here. That is going to be on the 25th of June with Dr. Jeannie Kim, the president of San Diego Canyon College. We're very excited to host her for the very first time. And then last but not least, we have our board installation and dinner gala. That's going to be on July 18th. And tickets are on sale now for that. We had so much fun last year. If you guys missed out on the gala last year, it was such a great time. It went way later than I stayed. And I feel like I stayed pretty late. It was so much fun. So this year we have another great theme planned, another great time. So please join us on the 18th of July. Get your tickets, speak to Connie about that. Also, make sure to follow the Chamber on social media. We have a great social media presence. Everything's always on the website, social media, or both. And a special thank you to Orange Cafe. Sean, thank you so much for today. As always, a special thank you to our Chairman Circle sponsors. We can't do any of these things without you, our board of directors, our staff, and you, our business community. Thank you. Aaron, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Briginda.
Have a great day, everybody.